Hello, 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 hello. It's Dina. Hello, HopeCrew. Hello, YouTube family. I was talking to my sister yesterday, as we tend to do on Tuesday evenings, and I realized Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming pretty soon. And I also realized that the challenge that I gave us this week in the poetry challenge, it's called the weekly poetry challenge. I'm doing it every week here on YouTube. It drops on Mondays. The first one was a haiku. The second one was an acrostic. And I'll have something for you on coming Monday. But the acrostic puzzle is the acrostic puzzle, it's based on a puzzle. The acrostic poem is a really great piece of writing to do that you can do as a gift for someone as a Christmas present or a birthday gift or an everyday gift, any time that you would like just to let someone know how you feel about them and what they mean to you. So it's very easy to write, but it does take thinking on your part, and it takes you to think about what that person means to you in your heart. And so it is a very heartfelt gift, and it does take some time and attention, but it could not be less expensive. So with that in mind, we want to look today at how this week's poetry challenge, the acrostic, might be used as a gift for someone in your family. And so I've written one as a example, and I'll read it and then we'll look at it and see what you might do with yours differently or similarly. So my poem is, you can look down the left line and you'll see the words that I used are my sister. And so the first letter of each of those words is at the front of the line, and now I've written out what my sister means to me. My mother always told me, you can count on her. Silent but strong. Independent but cooperative. Silly in private moments. Tough but understanding. Ever there for me. Ever inspirational. Really so thankful for you, my sister, for Shelley. So I've put this in the description below. If you've been reading along, or if you haven't, you can read now. And so there are some choices that I made that I want you to see. They were just my personal choices. They're not right or wrong. Your poem is anything you want it to be. Your poem is whatever speaks to you and to your audience, to the person that you love, that you're sharing it with. And whatever that is for you, if you want to try to rhyme it, or if you want to put, however you want to do it. So I'll show you the choices that I made, and then you can make different or similar choices for yourself. So what I have done is, well, you don't have to see this, you can look at the one in the description. What I have done is I have just used descriptions. These are adjectives. Silent, strong, independent, cooperative, silly, tough, understanding, right? So I've made some choices. That part at the top where there's two lines that are set off from each other, I wanted that to be a little different, sort of a setup to what was coming, right? Because it's sort of like a little introduction if I've got these two lines up here and then there's more lines underneath it. So it felt to me like it wanted a couple of lines of introduction. And so that's how I opened it this way. Now, is this honestly the truth? No, it's not the truth. My mother never said anything like this to me. My mother was sweet but neglectful. Our mother, my sisters and my mother, she was a wonderful person, a very sweet person. But do you know the best advice she ever gave me was to use WD-40 on a wheel that was stuck on a car axle. And I didn't have any idea that how it could work to do that. In retrospect, I understand metal on metal heats up. It released because it was cold. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But my mother wasn't typically there to give me great advice. So when you're writing, don't be afraid to connect to your larger experience or the larger experience of the world. This mother instinct. My mother would have told me that if she had been that kind of person who could have thought that way. Does that make sense? It's not a lie. My mother honestly always would have believed that us sisters would count on each other, that we sisters would count on each other. She wouldn't deny that. And so these are choices a writer has to make. Do you always tell 100% the truth? Do you tell sort of a truth that is a greater thing? Did she absolutely have to say that to me before I put it in quotation marks? Well, I've been a writer for 50 years, and let me tell you, no, you don't. You don't have to. Now, if you're writing an academic paper and you put something in quotation marks, your quotes better be right. But if you're writing poetry, no, the rules don't exist that way. So another choice that I made was, as well as using adjectives, you'll see that I only used them through those middle 4 lines. Now, as I come out of the poem, these last 2 lines, because I had an introduction of 2 lines, there's something in my brain that is saying, you better think of a way to close it out. You don't just want to go pop and end it up, right? You don't want to just go whatever the R adjective would be, realistic or really cool or whatever, an exclamation point at the end. You kind of want a little closure there somehow. So when you got a couple of lines left, you start thinking, what would I do with these 2 letters that are left? There's an E there and there's an R there. What would I do to sort of open it back up instead of just adjective, 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 So there is where I open it back up, but then I still have 2 very short pieces, ever there for me, ever inspirational. And I knew that my last line was going to be really so thankful for you, because that's really what I want to say. And so I knew I just needed that line in between to kind of go from all those stacked up adjectives to that thing that really was, I wanted to say to her, thankful for you, my sister. And so just kind of think about it. This is how poetry works, is you have to be very intentional with your language. You have to be very intentional with your words, very concise. And that's really what makes it poetry. And so the last thing I want to talk about is the way I have used periods on every line. Well, also, I have used capital letters on all of the adjectives. If you are writing poetry, this poem belongs to you. Capitalize what you want to capitalize. Put commas where you want them. Put periods where you want them. Use semicolons. Use whatever you want to use. Space. Leave blank lines. Use dashes. But be consistent. Let me say that again. Be consistent. Do not use a comma one place that means one thing and then use it in a different way down here that a person might expect a period or a dash or whatever. Just be consistent. And so you see what I've done? I've put periods after every one. These are not sentences, silent but strong. That's not a sentence. That's a sentence fragment. And if you wrote that in an essay, you would get a big red X on it from your English teacher. But I'm not your English teacher. So you can use just that and put a period at the end. It's a poem. It's okay. You could also use commas if you want. You could also use all lowercase letters. You don't have to shout out to the world, "This is an acrostic poem. Look down the side of my poem and see how all the letters on the left are capitalized." You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can write sentences. Write full sentences. Capitalize as you would sentences. Lowercase everything. E. Cummings did. He was a great poet. He was a poet who questioned rules, and he wrote all in lowercase letters. But he knew all the rules, and that's when he broke them. So I'm here to tell you today that all of these things are open for you in poetry. Do not be intimidated. We're going to write poems every week, and we're going to get tougher and tougher to write. And you're going to learn more about meter, and you're going to learn more about rhythm and structure. And don't be intimidated by that. It's all just language. It's all just words, and it's all just sounds. And you can do whatever you want. And no one is going to judge you to do whatever you want to do. And if you want to share, you can share. And I'm never going to judge your poems as far as whether I think they're any good or not. What I do is I look at consistency. You know, maybe you could change this comma here into a period, or maybe a different word would be better, right? So don't be afraid to try, and don't be afraid to share if you want to share, and I will leave comments on them. But as Christmas approaches, let's think more, and I'll do another video closer to Christmas. But this week I wanted to follow up with the acrostic, because this was the acrostic challenge week. So this was the second little video on the acrostic, and so you can sort of see how it works in real life and how you might use it in real life to help with something for you. Thanks for watching. Wow, this went longer than I expected. Sorry about that. But these things are kind of important in poetry, aren't they, I guess, is to encourage you to take chances and do things different than you thought. And if you thought that there were rules before, no. Let yourself just do what you want to do. So, see you again soon. See you on Monday with a new poetry challenge. If that's what you're watching, just keep to the playlist. I post a lot of videos, but if you just check the playlists out, you'll find the specific ones that you're interested in. All right. Thanks. Take care. Have a great week, and be free.